the aging society that we will be facing down the line, and how the children, what are they going to inherit? What kind of Singapore are they going to inherit?
I'm not so pessimistic because I think aging as a society doesn't have to be a negative thing. First, we have a remarkably well-educated and well-skilled workforce. Singaporeans are well-skilled that way. I talk to investors who come here and they say, this is the best decision I've done. Singapore is not cheap, rents are not cheap, labor is not cheap, but we've got smart people, hardworking people, notwithstanding the fact that we say that it's a full employment and something to worry about work ethic, but actually majority of Singaporeans remain fairly competitive. What if we are able to keep that edge? What if we are able to continue with Skills Future, making sure that even with older Singaporeans, they reinvent themselves, remaining relevant. Now, you have a wealth of experience to tap on, and because you have a good healthcare system, people are not only living longer, can we make sure that people live well? But don't look at that as a drag in the economy, but look at that as an opportunity. Now you have people in the 50s, 60s, possibly even 70s, still alert and active, being actively involved, which is also important, and you want to provide that choice, that because as part of active aging, I think is remaining engaged. And what if you're able to bring to bear that wealth of experience and skills, and you can contribute in a different way to the economy. And if you are able to harness that, I think it would be one economy that's very different. And that's something that we would like to see, and I would like to see. So you continue to want to keep that level of verve, because I think it's important. So that's where having diversity, having immigration, you need to manage the numbers, but I think it could potentially be very exciting. It will be a different Singapore, but infrastructurally we are expanding to make sure that Singapore is livable. I mean, your ABC waters, your park connectors, your physical environment. Building a more inclusive society is really quite important, because even as we progress, there will always be, for whatever reason, Singaporeans that are lagging behind. So on my part, can I intervene earlier? The lessons I learned from the ground, can I now look at vulnerable children and families? Can we be more aggressive? Because you know the indicators, and down the line, the probabilities of pathways going in particular directions are high. Can we step forward so that children could really break out? And depending on how you cut percentages, there will always be a bottom 10%, but a bottom 10% that perhaps are a different place from where it is today. So as you weave in more inclusiveness, you look at the physical infrastructure, because it's something you need to do, and you have a people that's motivated and inspired, you will work out the solutions, whatever the outcomes may be. So even though we may be a slightly older society, I don't think necessarily we need to be less dynamic. And I think we really should stop using words like, oh, the silver tsunami. It's like, oh, it's like a bad thing. It's like aging, and we are guilty of that. We should really stop, because it doesn't have to be that way. And the way we are trying to move ahead is to actually not be that. Of course, you get older, and with aging, we will all fall ill, and that's part and parcel of life. But while you're alive, live life to the fullest. And you want to make sure that we all age with dignity and remain as healthy and as alert, live long and live well, and to be able to provide the infrastructure to support us in that older age. And not just to retire, but still be active and contribute. And even in the social sector, where perhaps you step out of the formal economic sector, perhaps you then begin to contribute. I see a lot of my elderly residents being involved in looking out for fellow elderly Singaporeans and residents who may be more immobile. It gives you a purpose. It gives you a renewed sense of role and responsibilities. And perhaps you can build a really exciting society. But I think it starts from having the discipline, having a responsible government that will look at these bigger issues, because you can't deal with it when it happens. You've got to lay the foundations now. And how do you try to catalyze and energize and bring society in a particular way where individuals, citizens and government works in a very much more intimate fashion to collaborate and build this, because you can't build it by mandate. You can't say that I'll do this and therefore automatically it happens. We are reaching a stage where I don't think it ever happened like exactly in the past as well. In the earlier days, perhaps a bit easier because you're dealing with existential issues, but today, for that quality of life that we want, for that quality of solutioning that you want, you need to bring that on board in a much more aggressive fashion.